Valve's got one more big SteamOS update to round out 2025. After that, the Steam Deck Pro is on sale once again, and a lot of people are asking if it's worth it, so I'll give you my thoughts. And finally, DeckFilter and DeckReady are joining forces to help you find more Steam Deck games to play. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is DeckReady, my channel all about Steam hardware. We have passed 95,000 subscribers. It's all thanks to you. You've dropped the number of people who watch that aren't subscribed from 75% down to 70%. Let's get it even lower. Get me to 100,000 subscribers, please. Subscribe and set your notifications to all. Before I jump into this video, DeckFilter has returned to sponsor the video. This is the best Steam Deck companion app, so stick around for this sponsorship. So for this month's DeckFilter sponsorship, Felix wanted me to show you a real world use case of the app. So we've opened up the app here on my phone. You can see it on the screen now. I'm going to go to my wish list, which is overloaded with games, and they just announced that Dementium the Ward, which is a Nintendo DS survival horror game that I played back in the day that I really enjoyed, just came to Steam. So I can see here that how long to beat says it takes 4 hours to beat. And if you want to complete it, 4.5 hours. As someone who's beaten it before, that lines up with reality. And you can see that is there any deal says it's only $7.49. That's the best deal for the game. So I can buy it. And to find out if it runs well on the Steam Deck, if there is a Steam Deck HQ sort of setup or article or whatever, it'll show at the bottom, but because it's a smaller game, there isn't one. So thankfully, every game has a search on YouTube button. I just click that and DeckWizard has a video ready to go showing that it runs flawlessly on the Steam Deck. That's just one example of how you can use DeckFilter. That's a great way to find games. You can see everything from how long it takes to beat to how it's going to run on the Steam Deck. You can filter your wish list. You can make playlists. He's always updating this app with new features, and I think it's excellent. And it's well worth the $5 cost to admission. Big shout out to Felix for sponsoring DeckReady all throughout 2025 and hopefully into 2026. And big shout out to you for watching my ads because it really actually helps the channel. All right, with the intro out of the way, let's get into this SteamOS update to round out 2025 because it's bringing along some big features. The first thing they did was fix screen off downloading, which is great because this feature has worked like 95% awesome, and then there's just been some little bugs they've had to iron out over the past couple of weeks. So if you didn't know, there's actually two ways to put your Steam Deck in sleep mode. You can first of all hit the power button, which I'm assuming most people do, but other people like to hit the Steam button, scroll down to power, and then put it into sleep mode that way. And until now, the only way to get screen off downloading to kick in correctly was to use the power mode method. But if you went down to power, hit A, and then hit A on sleep, it would just go to sleep. With this Steam Deck update, they've unified that. So now no matter which way you put your Steam Deck to sleep, if it's downloading updates or a new game in the background, it'll give you that menu that's like, hey, in 7 seconds, I'm going to go to sleep and continue downloading in the background. Or you can hit sleep now and it'll pause the downloads like it used to. And that's good in case you have low battery life because you don't want it to completely drain your battery because of battery health concerns, and SteamOS is always a little weird when you drain it to 0 and try to bring it back to life. If you're someone who picked up a Nintendo Switch 2 to play those first-party Nintendo games and you also grabbed a Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, you've probably been a little disappointed to find that Nintendo locked down the Bluetooth drivers for both the new Joy-Cons and the Switch 2 Pro controller, which is kind of a bummer, but Valve has put in the extra work to extract the drivers from that controller and deconstruct them and rebuild them for PC. So now you can use your $75, I think, controller with your Steam Deck or your SteamOS equipped PC or even your Windows PC. The one caveat is because those drivers are locked down, you have to use it wired. So if you want to use that controller, just invest in a really long USB-C cord. I'm assuming most people won't use it with the Steam Deck wired. This is mainly for PC, but it's nice to see Valve putting in the extra work to get a controller that's really good and has great battery life working on their devices. Hopefully by the time the Steam Machine comes out, they can figure out how to make it work wirelessly because that would come in super clutch. But who am I kidding? I'm going to be using the Steam controller. And speaking of the Steam controller, because that thing is basically a Steam Deck without the screen, they've gone back and they've rebuilt the gyro capabilities from the ground up. And because it's using the same technology as the Steam Deck's controls, they've backported the future updates that the Steam controller will get to gyro to the Steam Deck, and that's available now. And if you already use gyro, nothing's going to be screwed up. It'll use the old gyro controller profile. They've left those in place, but you can then go in and upgrade the controller profile to use the new gyro capabilities. The main one that stands out is the recentering option. You can toggle this on right now, so when you activate gyro by putting your thumbs on the sticks or activating it with whatever button, because you can customize which button turns on gyro, so you could set it to the back button or whatever you want. Now it'll consider where the Steam Deck is already leaning as one option. So if you've got it pointed like this, it'll consider the center of gravity where it's already pointed, and then your left and right, up and down will be centered from there. Or you can set it so that when you put your thumbs on the sticks or activate gyro with whatever customized button you've set up, it'll recenter completely. So the camera will jump to true center, which is, I guess, like either vertical or horizontal, parallel or perpendicular with the ground, depending on which 90-degree rotation you're using with the Steam Deck. So that's pretty cool. I have finally been made a believer in gyro controls after playing through Half-Life, Blue Shift, and Opposing Force on my Steam Deck, and now in Half-Life 2. I love using it with the stick. So you get the stick control like 80% there, and then you use the gyro to fine-tune aim. The controls work great with controller in those games, but like the reticle is so small and it's basically 1-to-1 with no acceleration. So getting it like 80% there and then moving it just a pixel up to someone's head, excellent. Feels great every time. And now that we got this new update, I really want to set up a gyro profile in Witchfire, because that game also requires some pretty good accuracy. And honestly, this might be the fix for playing Hunt Showdown on the Steam Deck. If you guys saw my Steam replay video where I went through all the games I played on Steam in 2025, Hunt Showdown was my most played game because I am hopelessly addicted to it. I absolutely love it, and it works on Steam Deck. It's just a really tough game where you need pinpoint accuracy, so maybe I'll give gyro a shot while I have a couple days off for Christmas. If you haven't kept up with the security updates, a couple months ago they added in a little warning that pops up if you get a suspicious chat message, like, you know, those people who, generally speaking, not pointing you out, I promise, have anime profiles and the only game they play is either Dota 2 or Counter-Strike 2. Then they message you, they say hey, and then they suddenly request a trade for all of your trading cards or whatever Counter-Strike skins you have. They added in a warning to let you know that those people are shady, and now they've added an extra ability to report them directly to Valve so that they can go ahead and scan their profile and ban them. I'm fine with that. I think that's great. I want scammers to feel pain. There's nothing worse than scamming or stealing, in my opinion, because it's happened to me one too many times. This is a quick anecdote, I promise. You guys complimented this jacket. I've been wearing it more because I was too fat for it for a while, and now it finally fits again. This is actually the second version of this jacket I had. I bought the first one with my very first YouTube check, like over 10 years ago, and I had it for 5 years, and then I left it in my car overnight in LA like a moron, and someone broke into my car and stole it. I never found it. I was devastated. Then thankfully, like 2 days later, the stars aligned. I went to an All Saints sample sale with my wife and found the exact same jacket in the exact same size, and because it was a sample sale, it was $70 instead of $150. So I got the jacket replaced. But yeah, I don't like scamming and stealing. I'm glad Valve has implemented these features. So yeah, that covers the big features for this Steam Deck update. If you want to see everything they changed, because the changelog is massive, head over to Steam Deck HQ or the direct Steam Deck blog, because they update everything there as well. We're getting into 2026, the year of the Steam Machine, the Steam Controller, the Steam Frame. I like how many of these updates relate directly to the Steam Controller and Steam Machine, but I also like that they aren't forgetting about my best buddy, the Steam Deck. But speaking of great SteamOS hardware, let's talk about the Steam Deck Pro being on sale once again for $749. And by Steam Deck Pro, I of course mean the Legion Go S Purple Edition with 32 gigs of RAM and the Z1 Extreme. I gotta be honest with you guys, Lenovo sent me this thing when it came out, and I just didn't use it for a couple of months because I love the Steam Deck so much and I didn't really feel like I needed the power. Then Dying Light the Beast came out, then Silent Hill F came out, then Arc Raiders came out, and they performed fine on the Steam Deck, but like I had another option around that could run them just a little bit better. So I started making that my too heavy for Steam Deck console, and I think largely it's pretty good, but I haven't really felt the urge to pick it up ever unless I'm playing one of those few games that run just a little bit better on it than the Steam Deck. I have seen a lot of people who don't have handheld saying that they were looking at an OLED, but then they saw this thing and they were like, oh, it's on sale for $749. Should I upgrade to it or buy it? And at $749, I think that's like $100 off, but it's tricky because it is a sale, but that's really the price it should be selling for. And I still think it's a little expensive at that price. Not because the Z1 Extreme is an old generation chip. I've talked about this a lot, but I have a Z2 Extreme device, and in 95% of the games I've tried on it, it's like a 1 or 2 FPS difference. And then there are a couple outliers that are like a 5 to 10 FPS difference, but those games already run basically at 60 FPS on the Z1 Extreme, so it's not really that big of a deal. The screen is a lot bigger than the Steam Deck, so if there's a game you really like playing that doesn't have text size scalability, that could be an option to pick it up. The LCD on it is decent, I would say. It's better than the Steam Deck LCDs, which is no more anyway, but nowhere near as good as the Steam Deck OLED. I've seen a lot of cope, a lot of people saying, oh, it's so much bigger, it's just as bright. Nowhere near as bright, nowhere near as good of color. It is bigger, but the real problem is it's a 1200p screen, and just like with the Z2 Extreme, if you really want way better performance than the Steam Deck, you can't max out the screen resolution. You have to play at 800p. So like blowing up 800p a couple extra inches makes the image look a little bit softer and a little more jaggy. It still looks good, but it's not as good as native, and I don't think either chip is good enough to run at native. So like I wish they would just use an 800p screen like the Steam Deck. A lot of people love the ergonomics on this thing. I can't disagree. It feels really good in the hand. I will say it is noticeably heavier than the Steam Deck. Like they've packed in a bigger battery and some heavier parts. So if you like to play in bed, I would probably avoid this thing, because I played the Steam Deck for like 4 hours last night in bed playing Resident Evil 6. I was holding it above my head until like 3 in the morning, which is bad. Don't do that. But I didn't get tired. When I was really deep into Dying Light 2, I was using the Legion Go S in bed, and it just gave me that wrist strain and the tingly arm sensation. So like the weight does make a difference. The biggest drawback is definitely the battery life. If you want to run it in performance mode on battery, you're getting 90 minutes max out of this thing. There's no way around it. I wish they used that extra space with the massive screen and bigger chassis than what you get with the Steam Deck to just pack in a bigger battery. That was a big oversight, I would say. If you run it at balanced mode, it's running at the same TDP as the Steam Deck, so you'll get very similar performance to the Steam Deck, and at that point it's the same battery life as the Steam Deck OLED. But like if you're running it at the same performance as the Steam Deck, why would you pay $749 for it? And I would recommend a full price Steam Deck OLED over an on sale Legion Go S. I would say buy the 512 version and see if you can get a used 2231 terabyte drive, or just grab a micro SD card that's 1 terabyte or more and you'll be good to go. But if you want max performance, I think $749 is a fair price. Do not pay more than that, because it's overpriced completely. And finally, for the last news story here, I wanted to highlight a new feature that DeckFilter got, because I have joined forces with Felix to make you spend more money. So if you open up the app and go to the Discover tab, you will see some featured playlists. So you've got Gardner Bryant, my friend, you've got Felix, and then you've got Deck Ready. And these are just 10 games that I spent hundreds of hours on the Steam Deck. Not necessarily my top 10, but just 10 games that I think everyone will have a great time with on the deck because they look and run great. You've got Resident Evil 7, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Elden Ring, Signalis, Lies of P, Left 4 Dead 2, Dead Rising, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Dying Light, of course. The game I've spent probably the most time on this list, except maybe Elden Ring or Kingdom Come Deliverance. All these games look great, they run great, and in my opinion, they're all above 8 or 9 out of 10 games. So if you want some new recommendations, there's 10 for you. But that's not all, because there's also a recently played section. So if you click on the Deck Ready logo, you can see everything I've been playing recently on Steam itself. But because I play the Steam Deck so much, it's a great source for Steam Deck games. Diablo 4's new season is amazing. I've told you all about my experience with Resident Evil 6. Arc Raiders is awesome. Battlefield 6 doesn't work on Steam Deck. Ignore that. Splitgate 2 is now called Splitgate Arena Reforged. Runs at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. So if you're into arena combat, that's a great recommendation. Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm too dumb for it. Way too hard for me, but people love it. And then finally, Grim Dawn, Hunt Showdown, and Sulfur. Hunt, I'm going to go back to with these new gyro updates, but Grim Dawn and Sulfur both run great on the Steam Deck. And they are adding a new expansion to Grim Dawn in 2026, like 10 years after the game came out. So that's kind of crazy. A bunch of deck-specific apps have popped up on the App Store over the past few months. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. DeckFilter is paid, and what you're paying for is updates all the time. Felix listens to what we say, people who watch Deck Ready and use their Steam Deck, and updates it accordingly. But he also plays a lot of Steam Deck games on both his Steam Deck OLED and his Legion Go S. He's testing out the Legion Go 2, I guess, early next year. So hopefully you can give him some feedback and you enjoy the app as much as I do. Obviously I like it because I keep letting him sponsor the channel and I love doing those ads. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight how cool it is that you get boutique recommendations from Deck Ready. It kind of makes me feel like a cool guy. I don't know. I don't always feel that cool. I just feel like a normal guy most of the time, but having a dedicated section on a Steam Deck app, that's like a goal I didn't have that I feel achievement over achieving, you know? Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.